Good morning. So I am out here in the garden and the sky is threatening to pour down on me, but I'm trying to get this done quickly because I'm hoping to do a harvest and cook with me for some Nigerian stew. So like I've said before, this backyard garden, a container garden, a raised bed garden is a Nigerian stew garden. It has all the ingredients for the basics of Nigerian stew. There are Roma tomatoes, there are red bell peppers, there are habanero peppers, and those are the basics. So it's been a while since I have gotten a harvest out of here, and unfortunately I waited long enough that some of these guys are overripe on the vine. They are spoiled on the vine. The long story short is last week our HVAC went out and it was a high of 99, 97 for most of the week with no AC. And I wanted to cook, but we have a gas stove and gas creates heat. So there was no cooking going on last week. And so I didn't want to harvest until I was ready to cook, but I waited too long. So some of these tomatoes in here are just a bit overripe. Here's one. Yeah, just a little bit overripe. So that one's gonna have to get trashed. But I'm gonna get in here and harvest everything that's here, throw away the overripe stuff, take the stuff that's good, and then we'll be headed inside to cook. Come along. A perfect one. Happy to see that. You guys, this sucks. I feel like more rotted than I actually got to harvest. I did get to harvest a good amount, but when I look at the amount that rotted, it's like, let this be a cautionary tale. Harvest your vegetables when they're ready. I could have harvested them and left them in the fridge. I just had a lot going on, and now I have all this wasted fruit, off the vine, and it's a learning lesson for next year. Gonna take it and keep it moving. I'm gonna go ahead and start in on these bell peppers. It's looking pretty good. Got a little spot, but I think it's fine. You know what? I'm in here butchering the vine, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to shears. I've already cleaned these with rubbing alcohol. I'm just gonna clean them a little more. Oh, I think I got this one a little premature. Let's move to the next plant. It's looking good. Looks like the rest of these are definitely still ripening. So that's all I'm gonna take from there, and then the peppers are looking amazing, right? Like, look at all that. And perfect time for harvest. I can probably pluck these guys off pretty easy. So I'm just gonna pluck. Friends, this is the final harvest. Got some good tomatoes, a lot more went to waste, but it was all made up for with these beautiful habaneros. I mean, I just got so many. And these habaneros, you know, I only use a couple because habaneros are hot. So these are going to last me forever. Most of them are going to go in the freezer, but some will be going fresh into the stew today. So the first thing I'm going to do is get all of this produce washed, cleaned, and then set aside what I'm working with today. So for stew today, I need probably about 10 tomatoes, three habaneros, and since these bell peppers are on the small side, I'll do about 4. So in addition to the just ingredients from the garden, I'm also going to need 3 red onions. The first onion I'm going to dice and add to some chicken that's on the stove, making a chicken stock. And so I've just got 5 drumsticks in here with as little water as possible because I want the stock to be very concentrated, to which I'm going to add sliced red onions, salt, and some other seasonings. I'm gonna add in half a tablespoon of curry powder, and I'm also gonna add 1 chicken bouillon cube. Now that the chicken stock is up and going at about medium-high heat, I'm just gonna keep my eye on that and make sure to stir it. But I'm gonna head back over to the vegetables. I'm also gonna preheat my oven to 400 degrees. Now I'm just gonna dice up my remaining vegetables, the 2 red onions, the 3 bell peppers, well really 4 because they're so small, and the 3 habaneros and 10 Roma tomatoes, and get them diced and into a blender. So the chicken's ready to go in the oven. I've got a beautiful stock underneath here full of flavor, and the chicken's already starting to fall apart, so I know that it's ready to get it into the oven. That way it can have a little bit more structure before it goes into the stew. So I've got a baking pan here just covered in some tin foil, and it's got a rack on top so that the chicken can roast. And my oven is at 400 degrees. I'm just gonna pop these in maybe for about 30 minutes. This is just gonna give them some structure so they don't just fall apart in the stew. Also, cook them all the way through to the center. I'm gonna get these vegetables all blended up. To help them, I'm gonna put in a little bit of liquid. Typically that liquid would be water, but to speed things along today because I'm really hungry, I'm gonna add my chicken broth now instead of waiting until later. I'm blending this on high. I'm gonna blend until all of the ingredients are completely liquid. I want this stew to be as smooth and creamy as possible. So I've got a 1/4 cup of oil on high heat on the stove, and honestly, y'all, this is not the true Nigerian way. The true Nigerian way would be to have like a cup of oil in there so that you could literally fry the stew. And I actually would have probably cooked the stew base down a lot and evaporated the water from it first. But Honestly guys, health is wealth. So I am not going to use the proper amount of oil that makes your stew glossy and fried and gives it a more authentic taste and look. But I am instead going to do a little bit of a modified, healthier Nigerian stew. So there's a 1/4 cup of oil in there, and now I'm just going to pour in that base that we made, that blended base of our vegetables from the garden. And now I'm just gonna keep this on boil on high heat and evaporate some of the water out so that the stew can thicken up. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep stirring this to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. So the stew is thickening up nicely. It's still got some more thickening up to do, but I decided to add another 1/2 cube of chicken bouillon. I just put it in and I'm just gonna stir it in, add a bit more flavor. We'll see how that does and if I need to add in another half, but the stew is getting thick. Soon it'll be time to add chicken. So my stew has cooked down quite a bit. Even though I didn't add much oil, you can see some at the top separating. That is a good sign. It's also much thicker in consistency, and it's about that consistency that I like my stew to be. And so at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and add my chicken in. These were roasted in the oven. You can also fry them if you want a tastier, more authentic version, but a lot more calories. So I'm just gonna stir these in and let them cook another 5 to 10 minutes. Ideally, these should have been submerged in the stew. I probably should have used a smaller pot, but stirring will have to work. So the stew is ready and the chicken is ready in there. It is a nice thick consistency and it's ready to be served with rice. And today, because it was in the fridge, some balsamic roasted Brussels sprouts. I am starving, so I'm gonna dig in. Thank you guys for watching this video and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care.